Okay, good afternoon. I'd like to thank everyone for being patient, obviously, during this time of COVID, and I hope we have enough items in place for you guys to social distance. My name is Chevalo Truesdale. I'm a special agent with the Drug Enforcement Administration here in Atlanta. I'm the PIO. And obviously, we're here today to announce a very important seizure. Without getting into any details, at this point, I'll turn the mic over to, well, not mic, but podium over to B.J. Pack. He's the United States Attorney for the Northern District of Georgia. And we'll have three speakers. It'll be Mr. Pack, it'll be Robert Murphy, who's the special agent in charge of the DEA Atlanta Field Division, and also Chris Hacker, who is the special agent in charge of the Federal Bureau of Investigation's Atlanta Field Office. They will be the speakers, and I'll let one, again, formally introduce the other. Mr. Pack?
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm here to announce that a grand jury sitting in this building have handed down an indictment charging Antonio Deshaun Daniels, also known as Freckleface Sean, with one count of possession with the intent to distribute controlled substances. That is at least 1 kilogram of heroin, 5 kilograms of mixture and substance containing cocaine, and substance that's identified as marijuana, at least less than 50 kilograms of that material. In addition, the grand jury handed down an indictment notifying that Mr. Daniels had previously been convicted of drug trafficking in 1998, and in less than 6 years from the termination of his supervised release, that he is arrested again for drug trafficking. Count 2 charges Mr. Daniels with possessing approximately 41 firearms in violation, in connection with a drug trafficking crime, a violation of Section 924C. And there's a forfeiture provision that's contained within the indictment. Mr. Daniels is alleged to have been trafficking narcotics in this area for a very long time. We filed a memorandum of law in support of moving for his detention pending his trial, and so this is in the public record. Without getting into too many details about what was seized in the investigation, I'll let the agencies discuss a little bit more than that. But to sum it up, basically the agents here, agents of DEA, FBI, and our state and local partners have been investigating drug trafficking around the Metro Atlanta area. As a result of this investigation, and I want to give kudos in particular to one of my AUSAs who's been working very closely with the agents, AUSA Nick Hartigan. This investigation has tied all the way up to the highest levels of cartel activity in Mexico. And Mr. Daniels is a part of that, a member of that group, responsible for distributing large quantities. And based on a ledger that we seized, the government is alleging that he is responsible for distributing for the past 8 months, from August of 2018 to October of last year, approximately over 1,000 kilograms of cocaine, and sending back over $30 million to Mexico from drug trafficking activities. I want to note and thank the law enforcement agents and agencies and law enforcement officers throughout our state. Particularly due to COVID, a lot of folks believe that, and a lot of criminals and people who are willing to do criminal activities think that the police are not out there, law enforcement are not out there. This is a perfect example that our everyday heroes, law enforcement agencies, been out there every single day despite the dangers to enforce the law in keeping these type of poisons and dangerous materials from our streets. Again, we're looking to continue this investigation. Mr. Daniels' indictment is just the beginning of what we see additional investigative acts and indictments that we'll be seeking. At the same time, I want to congratulate the law enforcement agency for an excellent job in seizing lots of cash, lots of drugs, and keeping our community safe. At this time, I'll turn it over the podium to Special Agent in charge of DEA for the Atlanta Field Division, Robert Murphy.
I just also wanted to say that obviously the law enforcement partners that we have are critically important. And I just wanted to make sure that I introduce Chuck Atkinson, who is the chief of the Doraville Police Department, as well as T.K. Gordon, who is a captain for the Doraville Police Department. They stand here united with us as well.
Good afternoon. Just want to clarify one more thing Mr. Pack said. Yes, this gentleman did previous prison time. It was federal time. He was arrested and prosecuted federally, which is very unusual. We don't really see that happen twice. A drug dealer come back out and start his activities after doing time in federal prison. And of course that'll have consequences for him. What you see here is extremely unusual on many counts. First, the obvious amounts of heroin, 170 kilos of heroin. That's a ridiculous amount of heroin. I'm actually, and the agents that worked this case, I was stunned. If you would have asked me that there was ever a market for that much heroin in this place, I would have told you no. I obviously was wrong. There is a big market here. This was, all these activities was happening in, as Mr. Pack said, in the city of Atlanta, around the Bluff, what was notorious area called the Bluff, the Center Hill and Almond Park areas, all notorious drug trafficking areas. The other thing that's very unusual about this is how we got to this case. DEA agents, along with FBI agents, have been working a long-term Mexican cartel case. We actually worked this one backwards. Made several seizures in Mexico, and one in particular of over $7 million in cash. And based on some things that we uncovered during that, we identified Freckles or Daniels as being responsible for distributing, being the main contact for the Cartel Jalisco New Generation cartel here in Atlanta for the distribution of, as is, again, 170 kilos of heroin, 10 kilos of cocaine. There's marijuana out there. There's over 40 firearms. According to his records, about 1.6 million in cash on hand. We haven't got an official count, but I trust his records. About a total value of $8.5 million worth of drugs on the table. And again, very unusual for us to see this much heroin anywhere in the United States, to see that much at one time, but especially in this area. So it's kind of eye-opening that. Again, this is some high-level investigations that would not, combining of resources, taking advantage of the resources FBI has, DEA brings, our local counterparts bring. The only way to target these kind of organizations. This is a significant seizure to an individual who's really bad. There's some other crimes that we've passed on to local law enforcement for them to look into that we think these gentlemen are responsible for. Basically, we took off a ruthless, violent group that is responsible for selling poison throughout our streets in the city of Atlanta, and hopefully we won't see him again for most of our lives. And with that, we'll turn it over to Special Agent in Charge of FBI, Chris Hacker.
Hey, good afternoon. Yeah, my name's Chris Hacker. I'm the Special Agent in Charge of Atlanta's FBI office here for the state of Georgia. And first, I'd like to thank the media for being here and for taking interest in this type of case. And I want to talk about the evidence that's out here. There's a reason it's out here. I've seen pictures online. I've seen comments in print media and online. And I think all of you that are here today would agree with me that that's not the same as seeing it right here in front of you. But I'd also ask you to look at this and think about all of these drugs being distributed throughout our communities. Your community is no different than any other community, and this can permeate through any community in Metro Atlanta, throughout the state of Georgia and beyond. And this evidence didn't get here alone. This evidence absolutely didn't get here alone. And there's a few things that really were required for us to be where we are here today. And the first starts with leadership at all levels. And I really have to start with the leadership of our U.S. Attorney. So without B.J. Pack and his relentless efforts to keep our city and our streets safe, we wouldn't have had the resources to even take on an investigation like this. The determination of his office, he mentioned his AUSA. That's one of many people from his office that participated and supported all of the agents and officers that worked on this. And quite frankly, without the support of the U.S. Attorney, you can't work a 2-year case. It just doesn't happen. So I'd like to thank him for his leadership and collaboration and guidance that he's provided us throughout this matter. And then I got to thank the SAC from the DEA, Rob Murphy. I don't have a better partner in the state of Georgia than Rob Murphy in this office here with the DEA. He's been here before. This isn't his first tour in Atlanta. He cares deeply about this community and about the people that are here. And I know his vision, because he shared it with me when I got here, is that he wants to partner with anybody that will partner with him to fight this. And that's exactly what he did, and I really appreciate his leadership and collaboration, because without his leadership, he knows what's going on better than anybody in this state about illegal drugs and the consequences. And he's built a stellar team here. It's not just the FBI, it's many different agencies. And without that, we wouldn't be here today. So I'd like to also thank all the state police agencies that help, the county agencies and the local agencies that help, and the chief and the captain who are on stage with us here today. But we all know that the true thanks doesn't go to anybody on this stage. We facilitated this to happen. The real thanks goes to the FBI agents, the DEA agents, the police officers, and all the other state and local officers who spent tireless nights away from home, weekends away from home. And then I also want you to think in closing about the 2-year time frame here that we're talking about. And what we've been dealing with since March is a national pandemic. All of these drugs were seized during the pandemic. And so not only did our agents and our professional staff and our analysts work tirelessly to do all this, they also put themselves out there, and the U.S. Attorney mentioned that they're not just sitting at home, they're working hard to protect our communities. At the end of the day, our mission, all of our mission, is to protect the American people and uphold the Constitution. I can't think of a better way to do it than to put this on the table and show you the work that all of the law enforcement officers in this community have done, and the community should be very proud of their work. Thank you.
The seizure date on this was July 28th, I believe, July 27th. Which one, gentlemen? Dino? 27th, July 27th. So all this was seized at one time. This wasn't accumulation of it. I just want to make sure I get this clear, that it wasn't a 2-year accumulation we stacked up on the table. This all was taken down on what we call takedown date on July 27th, where we executed several search warrants on locations. This individual owns several houses in a bluff that he uses as a front for distribution of narcotics, and we raided those houses, and this is the result on the 27th of July.